Just before dawn, Ukrainian drones locked onto a moving Russian military train loaded with ammunition. At 0312 local time, thermal signatures glowed like veins of fire across Bryansk Oblast. Within minutes, the sky above the Sevsk rail corridor turned into a silent battlefield. No jets, no missiles, just algorithms hunting steel. Then came the first strike. One train, 18 cars, each packed with enough explosives to light up a province. And as the feeds rolled back to Kyiv, commanders realized this wasn't just a hit, it was a message. What unfolded next would send shockwaves through Russia's entire logistics command. A narrow stretch of rail cuts through Bryansk Oblast, moonlight flashing across metal as a Russian supply train pushes east. 18 cars long, each one stacked with artillery shells and drone fuel, bound for the front line. At 0312 local time, high above the cold forest canopy, a PD-2 reconnaissance drone glides in silence, its thermal sensors catching a snake of heat slithering through darkness. Inside a Kyiv command trailer, the operators of UAV Detachment Delta 3 lean close to their screens. Every wagon glows white on the feed, too much explosive in one place, too tempting to ignore. Data flashes across the monitor, range 12 kilometers, speed 110 kilometers per hour. A commander speaks quietly over the encrypted line. Confirm target, wait for signal. On the ground below, the train's rail supply regiment 41 guards patrol lazily, unaware of the swarm gathering overhead. In the cold, the drone's rotors whisper, low, steady, patient. Coordinates lock in, digital crosshairs hover over steel. The valley is quiet enough to hear the hum of voltage in the power lines, the stillness before something irreversible. When the signal finally comes, will the drone strike clean or trigger a catastrophe across the valley? 3 Ukrainian drones rise into the fog at 0403, splitting into formation like silent hunters. Altitude, 1,200 meters. Distance to target, 8 kilometers. Their wings cut through the mist, invisible to Russian radar, thanks to low-altitude jamming blanketing the Sevsk rail sector. In a command post outside Tula, Russian operators stare at flickering screens. A brief data gap appears, then vanishes. They dismiss it as static interference, never realizing it's the shadow of death drifting over their own supply line. Back in Kyiv, the falcon-eyed drone ops team watches through crystal feeds carried by Starlink encrypted links. Every heartbeat of the train is visible, the glowing headlights, the pulse of diesel heat from its engines. The lead drone dips low for confirmation, slicing through the fog until the entire convoy fills its lens. At 80 meters above ground, the second and third drones adjust their vectors, gliding perfectly in sync. Signal delay, 0.7 seconds, barely enough to blink before impact commands go live. The operators begin their countdown, 10, 9, 8. Can they synchronize the strike before the convoy enters the tunnel and disappears from sight?
The countdown hits 0. At 0406 local time, the first R-18 FPV kamikaze drone drops into a steep dive, slicing through fog toward the moving train. It slams into the third car, direct hit, detonating a payload of 122mm artillery shells. The night explodes. A column of flame tears upward, lighting the Sebsk-Unecha rail line like a sunrise made of fire. Shockwaves ripple 5 kilometers down the track, bending rails and shattering glass across nearby villages. Within seconds, secondary detonations ignite. Fuel wagons erupt one after another, each blast feeding the next, an unstoppable chain reaction. The sky glows orange and red as 14 cars vanish in molten light. Even the drone cameras, orbiting overhead, shake from the concussion. Panicked Russian defenders from the 25th Rail Security Battalion fire tracers blindly into the smoke. They hit a decoy drone instead, its metal frame spinning into the wreckage. Through satellite ISR feeds, analysts in Kyiv watch in silence as the entire rail corridor collapses into chaos. One of the surviving drones banks sharply, its camera panning across the inferno, capturing something unexpected inside a remaining freight car. But amid the chaos, did one of the drones record something Russia didn't want anyone to see?
The fire burns deep into the night, but the damage is only beginning. At 05:15, the explosion's shockwave shatters more than rail lines. It rips through a nearby power substation feeding 2 Russian military depots. Within seconds, transformers blow like thunderclaps, plunging parts of Bryansk, Kursk, and Oriel into darkness. Every screen in the regional command center flickers, then goes black. Trains halt mid-route. Automated signals freeze red. The entire logistics web, hundreds of tons of fuel, shells, and armored parts, sits stranded on dead tracks. Dispatchers scream into dead radios as communications across 30 kilometers vanish. Intercepted chatter flows into Kyiv's cyber recon unit. Russian officers are panicking, unsure if the blackout is sabotage or cyber war. In reality, it's both. One physical strike triggering a digital collapse. Back in Ukraine, data teams begin compiling footage, overlaying satellite heat signatures to confirm the destruction. By dawn, 0640, Russian communications partially return, but it's too late. Ukraine posts high-resolution satellite images of the burning line to social media. Within hours, the world sees the truth, and Moscow's Southern Command faces a logistical nightmare they can't explain away. As the blackout deepens, could this single strike rewrite the rules of drone warfare? By morning, Russian media calls it a mysterious sabotage incident. Officials deny drone involvement, even as footage of the explosion floods Telegram. Still, the crater tells the story. Rails twisted like wire, scorched wagons scattered across 2 kilometers of track. At 11:30 UTC, new satellite imagery confirms everything. The Bryansk Oblast rail hub is gone. Emergency units weld feverishly, sparks flying against frozen steel. Trains reroute hundreds of miles north, choking the supply chain feeding the front. In Kyiv, no official claims responsibility, but insiders whisper one phrase: precision logistics denial strike. Western analysts echo it, calling the operation a decapitation test for Russia's supply network. For the Ukrainian Defense Intelligence, it's proof of concept that small drones, guided by code and patience, can cripple an army built on rails. But inside Russia, the silence grows heavy. Repair crews labor through the wreckage, unaware that new signals are already forming above them. Another UAV swarm testing altitude, speed, endurance. As one rail car finally rolls forward, its reflection catches a shadow overhead. If a single drone swarm can paralyze a region, what happens when Ukraine deploys them en masse? The strike on a single train reshaped the battlefield without a single soldier crossing a border. No jets, no tanks, just algorithms, precision, and silence. It proved that in modern warfare, the lifeline of an army can collapse not from invasion, but from intelligence in motion. Ukraine's drones didn't just destroy steel, they rewrote the language of power and logistics in the digital age. Subscribe for more frontline breakdowns of how technology is rewriting the battlefield. Speed, precision, consequence.